Bonjour everyone, welcome back to the channel. I promised to share my personal tips for finding brocantes. While editing this video, I realized you might understand this as where do I go to find brocantes? What are the best places to source them? That is actually not what this video is about, but I did do a video on that I'll link up here. This video that you're watching today is about how do I determine which items I pick up, what do I look for specifically, and which items I leave at the brocante. That's what we're watching and talking about today. First of all, before I say anything else, brocante and antiques are not one and the same thing. So in the spirit of my former studies of French language and literature, I decided to check the Académie Française to see what they say about it. The Académie Française is the official authority on the French language, and here's what they say. So the word antiquité in French is also used to refer to a period in time that was very long ago. And here you can see in definition number 3, it is an object that dates from the époque antique, so from a very long time ago. In general, antiques are 100 years old or older. You also often see the word vintage, and those are items that were made anywhere between approximately 1940 and 1990. Now, let's see what the Académie Française says about brocante. And here it says a business in objects and curiosities that are second-hand, which is what I love about this. It can be anything that just looks interesting, intriguing, and you can see here it also has a pejorative meaning, a collection of objects or furniture without great value, bric-à-brac. So I would define brocante as all kinds of different second-hand items that in general have a lower value than antiques and sometimes are also not very easy to identify and set the value for. Also, the word brocante in French is used to refer to the store or the shop that sells these kind of items or the flea market. And to make things even more complicated, you can stumble upon antique pieces and vintage pieces in brocante stores, in flea markets, and vintage pieces aren't necessarily of a lesser value. So yes, let's just dive into the things to look out for and how I select my brocante. Just as a disclaimer, I am not an antique specialist. I don't like antiques, I know nothing about it, I don't put them in my home. I have a personal preference for dishes, glassware, sandstone items. So mostly I will talk about that in this video. If while you watch this video, you feel like you want to share your ideas, please do share them in a comment because I really feel we can learn from everybody's best tips and experiences. Another thing that I find is very important before I share why I pick certain things up and why I don't, is the safety aspect. The reality is with older items, there is always a risk that the item isn't entirely safe. Mostly what I'm talking about here is lead. So typically, a painted piece of furniture or especially doors, even the doors in our house had this because we tested for it, highly likely will contain lead-based paint. So you can see this quite easily, I have found, because lead-based paint chips in a very specific way. They call this alligatoring, and it definitely doesn't only occur with lead-based paint, by the way, but it's cracks and wrinkles in the paint, and it makes it look like it's an alligator, basically. And that's a sign that potentially your paint or the paint that was used may contain lead. That is something I find very, very important because, for example, some people really like old toys. A child naturally wants to put everything in their mouth, they touch everything, then put their fingers in their mouth. That can really be very dangerous, and it's something to keep in mind. For example, if it's a piece of furniture and you really love the chipped paint, try to seal it by putting varnish over it. For example, if you've got old doors like I'm putting in our home, it's most likely all lead-based paint and you want to strip them or sand them down, use protection. So use one of those masks. I know I have one with these things on the side. It's not comfortable. The danger on lead-based paint is when it starts chipping and it's flying around and you're breathing that in. So that is what you need to protect yourself from. When you've purchased items that are painted and you don't know if it's lead-based paint, You can buy these kits in most of the hardware stores throughout the world, and you can test if the paint is lead-based. There can also be lead in some ceramics. Now, I've done some research on this and have found, and I'll link the article down below, a French ceramic maker, potter, I think is the right word, that explained just the physics, chemical background to this. So typically to make porcelain or sandstone, for the manufacturing process, they need very high temperatures. And she explained that lead cannot go that high. Like the melting point for lead is too low. I'm not a specialist, I have to base this on what she said and what various reports and scientific research will say. So do your research. But that is what I found. They don't use lead. Some ceramics, it's because of the glazing they use, is they use lead to make that super strong. So you can never really be sure whether your ceramics have lead in them or not. My personal rules are, if an item is cracked or chipped, I will not use it to eat from. And if I just love them very much, and I do have several items that are a bit damaged, and then I just keep them for decoration. I just keep them to put other items on that I don't put into my mouth. Or you could put a couple of nice, really beautiful plates and hang them as decoration on your walls. Some other items are only, you can only make them by using lead. One of them is crystal, for example. And for example, if you leave wine to sit in a crystal decanter for a long time, it is known that that enables a lead to leach from the item. Just don't use it to store any food. You can drink a glass of wine out of a crystal glass. You know, your wine is going to be in there maybe for an hour and then you've drunk it. How to differentiate glass from crystal is quite easy. You may have seen that I found these champagne coupes. This is a glass, and these champagne flutes that I've had for quite a while. How do you know if it's glass or crystal? You tip the end of the glass with a finger. You can hear there's hardly any reverb. So this is glass, because crystal sounds like this. There's a reverb, and that is crystal. Also, if you would hold these in your hands, you could tell that this one's much heavier. And just to be on the safe side, don't use it every day. And on that same topic, another thing that I want to talk about is copper. So this one obviously hasn't been cleaned in a while. I like the style of this. But if you find copper items and you want to use them, you really always want to check the lining. So here you can see that there is these green spots on them. We call that vert de gris in French. That is not safe to use. If you want to use and restore copper, you can very easily clean it using baking soda and vinegar, and you can have it lined by a professional. It makes it perfect for cooking. It makes it perfectly safe for cooking. That is really something also that I wanted to mention. I'm quite sure that if you love copper and you're looking for copper at Brocante, you probably know this already. I just wanted to make sure. So here I go, 10 things that help me pick my Brocante. Number one, and I think this is the most important thing, is learning about your personal style. You might like items that I don't like at all. One man's trash is another man's treasure. Is that the saying? And I think the first thing you want to do is just try to understand what you like. So when we moved here in 2019, I did not like Brocante at all, or I thought I didn't, because I just didn't know what it was, how to use it. It didn't look good in my home in the Netherlands, which was too modern. So when we came here, I noticed at the thrift stores that I found items that I now looked at completely differently. And I started a Pinterest board about how we wanted to decorate our home. And gradually I learned that I like a specific type of sandstone, for example, specific type of dishware. It's helpful to know what your style is and to have a Pinterest board with nice styled and decorated items. I have found this really helps me to see an item differently when I see it between all the clutter in a Brocante or a thrift store. Number two, and this is in the same line of thought, check websites, maybe YouTube channels of people that you feel have an eye for decorating or an eye for brocante or an eye for antiques. And just, again, memorize these images in your head so you get a really good eye for what is beautiful to you and what is not. Sometimes I know there are some YouTubers that go to all these big brands' website, identify items in the collection, and then go to thrift stores to see if they can find a similar thing. I have sometimes seen, for example, fake terre de fer plates at Zara Home that I absolutely didn't like because I knew how beautiful the real ones are, but it can be helpful still to go through your regular new brands collections and then see what's nice about this. And it also, you'll often see a lot of trends are coming back, a lot of vintage styles are coming back. The third thing that I have really found is you never find what you're looking for, and you always find something you didn't know you need or wanted. So really it's hit and miss, but more nicely stated, it is one big surprise discovery. So I have found some of the best things by going in and running into it and looking at it and thinking, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. I didn't even know this existed. I need this. And also be ready to be enchanted by something that you didn't think you liked. Just go in with a very open mind. Now, this was kind of the preliminary information to me. Now on to how I select them. Why do I pick certain things up? Why do I discard other things? Before I say anything else, again, I think this is highly personal. When you know your style, when you know how you want to decorate your house, for example, you know, and you know because you've been trained by looking at all these other people's homes or other people's brocante collections or all your Pinterest things, you have already trained your mind to identify items when you go to a vide-grenier or an estate sale or a brocante or a thrift store. What you'll pick up and what you won't is highly based on what you love. And that has been my number one rule. That is, there is no right and wrong in selecting brocante. If you like it, if it has value to you, you pick it up. It is as simple as that. And often I see that people get very insecure or very stressed about, I don't know if this item is worth what they're asking for. I don't know if it's a good item. I would say as long as you're not buying antiques, you don't really have to worry about that. Brocante typically is a unique, random piece that the brocanteur selected because he thought there was something nice about it, and that you buy because you feel there's something nice about it. That's it. You can't really go wrong. Pick up the things you love. Leave the things you do not feel drawn to. If you're not in it to sell it, you don't have to worry about the price. You know, we've all been in a situation where we've paid a little too much for something just because we loved it so much. And if that's no big deal to you, it isn't to me, you're fine. So forget about the stress. It should be a happy experience, not a stressful experience. However, and this is tip 5, if you're insecure about the price, you can always Google the item or Google Lens the item. Google Lens is the app, it's in the Google app, and you can take a picture of the item and it will find similar items online. So often I find that when I do that, it takes me to this website of some kind of brocante or antique seller that will tell me, you know, this is what it is and this is the price. That could give you a feel for what it's worth. The most important reason I do it, sometimes I find something and I don't recognize the brand or the stamp has faded, and then it helps me to know what it is. Number 6 is, if you're like me, you get easily overwhelmed by all the stuff that's there, especially when you're somewhere that's not curated. So it's not a brocante or antique shop. The best thing is to pick it up, take it away from the cluttered surroundings, and just hold it against either a white wall or somewhere where it's isolated from everything that was surrounding it just now. This has made a huge difference to me. And then I see usually my Pinterest images coming in my head, like, oh, this looks a lot like something that I've seen. And they put like stems in it, or they put cutlery in it. Oh, that was really nice. So, oh, wait, I could use this for that. And in the same line of thought, number 7 is always spend some time looking at an item that draws your attention. You know, sometimes you walk through a store, something draws your attention, like, oh no, I don't know why, I'm not looking for that. I have taught myself to walk up there, pick it up, and try to understand why was I drawn to it. There was something about this that I was drawn to, and I'm trying to understand what it was. So if you've seen all my videos, you probably see me picking things up, turning it around, and then putting it back. And really, either I decide whether I like it or not, but I also do this check, like, what is nice about it? Is it the color? Is it the finishing? Is it the shape? Is it the size? If something has drawn your attention, I believe there is this subconscious thing that is trying to tell you something, or that is hoping you're not missing this. So always pick it up, just take your time, never rush through the store. And I also always do a second round, because I've seen, even sometimes when I'm editing my videos, I see items that I didn't see when I was in the store. So you always see different things when you go for a second round. The cat wants to come in. I'm going to let my cat in. Talking about ceramics and dishware, I have really found over the years that there are certain brands and styles that I like and others not so much. And one thing that you should always do is turn every piece around and look for a stamp. So for example, you see this plate. First criteria is, do I like it? Am I drawn to it? Then you pick it up. It's as easy as that. But then you can turn it around and see if it teaches you anything about the brand and the style of the item. And if you want to, of course, you can Google that and find out what they sell for generally, find out if there's more information. If you're at a Brocante and not the thrift store, but a Brocante, the seller should be able to tell you about where they found it, what it is. Sometimes there's a really beautiful story to it as well. Sometimes they tell you really nice stories about how these were made and all those things. Same for this small bowl that I absolutely loved. This has the stamp of Digoin, and it's a very well-known brand. So that will give you some information. And again, when you like it, you can pick it up. Okay, that is all I wanted to share with you in this video. It's all that I can share because it's all that I know. Of course, there's a lot of things to say about vintage paintings, antique furniture, and all kinds of other things that are not the kind of items that I buy. So I am not the right person to tell you anything about that. My main message for this video was that I believe Brocante hunting should be fun. It shouldn't be something that stresses you because you're afraid of paying too much or not sure what you're buying. That is the beauty of Brocante. It is not the same as antiques. You'll also learn to style items the way that you feel looks nice. Again, there is no right and wrong. Many of you have asked me to show how I style certain products. Well, I style them the way I think they look nice. There are no rules to doing this. On a final note, I wanted to share a couple of books that I found really helpful on this. There is no right and wrong, but it's really nice to be inspired by what other people do. So what I really liked is this book. I've shown this before and I'm showing it again. And just look at all the vignettes that he's using in these pictures. Like, how are they using pictures? How are they using old ceramics? How are they putting them in their cabinets? How are they styling a coffee table with them? So for example, this I think is a good example of how to just put a couple of knickknacks together. Nothing's really worth very much probably, and it's just the owner's personal style and how they put things together, and just put a few stems, dried stems, and a couple of pencils. I love it, and that is my invitation to you. Don't complicate things. Don't be afraid to try things, move things around, put something else, take something away, and when it makes you feel happy when you look at it, it's done, it's perfect. And this is another book by the same author. It's very much in that same spirit. And then the other book that I really liked is this one. And I love the title of it because really what it means, curate, is curate it to your specific style. And this, I love the subtitle, is even inspiration for an individual home. And I believe that this book really invites us to do that. So I'll show you a couple of things that are in here. So see this vignette, for example, that's very personal. It's a couple of books, it's an oil painting, a framed painting, and then these little vases with some stems in them. You really can't go wrong. It is really what you like. That is how I do it. I typically don't like very cluttered interiors, as you probably have experienced already. I like it when items really get the attention they deserve. So that was all I wanted to share. If there is information that you have, your personal experience or your personal knowledge that you've gathered about shopping Brocante, please do share it in a comment. I think we can all learn from each other. We lovers of all things beautiful and all things old. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.